Anvil! Anvil! What's going on here? Just some BB testing, sir. Didn't want to leave it behind. Talking about your weapon. YouTuber or no YouTuber, that's a hot weapon. You should know better than that. Your safety should be on all times in the garden. This is my safety, sir. Such a nerd. Hi, welcome back to AATV. I'm Tom Anvil Hibberd, and today we're going to talk about my G&P Retro Colt Carbine collection. I really love these older style fixed carry handle ARs. They're so light and handy compared to some of my more tactical blasters that have got bits and bobs strapped all over them. I'm also more and more drawn to historical styles of airsoft these days, be it Vietnam or the 80s or 90s games, and these really suit that style of event. Blackhawk Down the movie was the most influential film when I started playing airsoft, but back then I didn't have the knowledge or the technical ability to build a really accurate replica. Now I do. I've acquired 3 very similar carbines without really being aware of it, and I thought I'd take you through them today. This is my G&P M653, here's my G&P Blackhawk Down inspired M727, and this is a G&P M733 that I've currently got dressed up to resemble an early 90s Delta style 723 14.5-inch barrel carbine. So what I'll do now is take these to the workbench and show you some of the features. This is my G&P based Colt M653. In the real world, they came onto the market in the early to mid 1970s. They were most famously used pretty anachronistically by Sergeant Barnes and Sergeant Elias in platoon. This was the final all M16a2 component carbine in the Colt 600 series, and it had a 14.5-inch barrel. So that's about the same length as the current US service weapon, the M4. It was used by US Special Operations Forces such as SEALs and Army Rangers. It features a pencil barrel, so that's a slimline pencil barrel, not the heavy barrel that later came in. A 1 in 12 twist rate in the barrel, so that means that it takes 12 inches for the bullet to spin 1 complete rotation. They can be found with both the older style teardrop forward assist and the later round one. One of the most important features is the handguard retention ring, or the slip ring, is flat. So this is a very versatile airsoft gun. I can use it for any number of different games. So I can use it for Vietnam film sim games, obviously Platoon being a film. They were around in the 80s and the 90s all the time, and I could also use it as a really early Delta carbine, so the M723. As the only thing that differed in the really early M16a2 carbines was the twist rate in the barrel. They pretty much used old M16a1 components for the rest of it. This particular one was built by parts from me, G&P A1 fixed carry handle upper, a G&P A1 trademarked lower. This shouldn't have a property of the US government trademark because these were never bought in, but this was the trademark layer that was available. This has a G&P steel M653 front end. I changed the handguards out to Brownell's carbine handguards. These are really nice fibre reinforced handguards with a heat shield. You can just see the heat shield there. It has a Heyo stock nut. The castle nut you see on later carbines wasn't around at this time, so this is more correct. I do also have real A1 sights in this one. This one features a polymer collapsing stock. These really had the early second generation aluminium stock. I'd really like to acquire one of these for these. Maybe not an original Colt one, but there are some repros, so I'd really like that. Inside it has a short stroked G&P gearbox, gate tighten, high torque motor. And currently inside here is the Sonic upgrades, PSI, R-Hop and a Madball type barrel, which we're going to be testing soon. So that's my G&P M653. G&P based Colt M727. So these came around in the mid 80s when the M16a2 came into existence. So this is effectively an M16a2 Carbine, specifically with an A2 upper with the target style sights. And again, a 14.5-inch barrel. This one currently has a sleeve suppressor on it. A lot of the Colt carbines can be really confusing if you're trying to lock down a definitive configuration. There really isn't one. Most 727s seem to have an A2 fixed carry handle upper and a 14.5-inch grenade launcher profile barrel with a 1 in 7 twist rate. However, A1 and A2 low receivers appear to have been used, and they normally have an A2 grip. This is my Black Hawk Down movie carbine, as used by Delta. It's a blend of the rifles used by Hoot and Bush, with a suppressor front end from the Gary Gordon's carbine. In reality, they were carried by the Rangers. Matt Emmersman had one, for example. This was to ensure that there was an easy sighting change between their M16a2 rifles and the M16a2 carbines. They both used the same fixed carry handle sights. This was built from GMP parts by me, with an A2 fixed carry handle upper, an A1 trademark lower. It's got an anachronistic M4 front end with a grenade launcher cut. This isn't strictly correct, as the grenade launcher profile, the actual grenade launcher profile barrel was very slightly different, but for airsoft it really doesn't matter. I did change the fat M4 handguards out for the slimmer carbine ones again. It has a standard castle nut. This should really again be the earlier stock ring. The castle nut only really came in on the M4. It has the 3rd generation plastic stock, A2 grip, and you can see in comparison to the 653, this has the tapered delta ring rather than the handguard slip ring. So I converted this and 3D printed some parts to make a mock OpSync suppressor. The OpSync suppressor was sleeved and went over the end of the barrel, and the end of the suppressor had a tapered surface which mated up with a tapered surface on this collar. So this slided over and screwed on, and then the 2 tapered surfaces helped it to self-align. Replicas of the OpSync are extremely hard to find now, so I ended up making my own 3D printed parts. Inside this suppressor is a little internal plug which holds the original A2 birdcage muzzle brake, and that simply means I can just slide it on and lock it up just like the real ones. And last but certainly not least, this is my GMP based Colt M733. The real one came in the mid-80s alongside the M727. So this is effectively the M16a2 Commando, which is the smallest and lightest version of the M16a2, marketed at people that wanted the compactness of an SMG, but also required the power and range of a rifle. It used an 11.5-inch barrel with a 1 in 7 twist. The M733 used a late A1 or C7 style upper with the more simple sights and a brass deflector. These came in really late in the M16A1 program, and Delta really liked this style of upper. There are some M733s with just normal A1 uppers and just normal A2 uppers. Just like the previous carbines, a lot of these appear to have been complete parts bin specials. So this was bought from Fire Support as a complete M733, and it came with the C7 or XM116A1E1 upper with brass deflector and A1 sights. This one is a fairly late GMP with a blank A2 lower. Previously these had come with trademarks, sadly no longer found on GMPs these days. The M733 is most famous for appearing in the movie Heat, where it was used by Robert De Niro and Val Kilmer in the bank robbery shootout scene. It also appears in Black Hawk Down and the movie, and some were used or trialled by British SES in the early 90s. So a reasonably flexible and useful airsoft replica. This also has a mock OpInks suppressor on. This one's slightly different. Because the M733 only has a 11.5-inch barrel, I did this one to just screw on like a conventional suppressor. And this has a 3D printed collar which just slides over the end of the barrel and takes up the space between the suppressor and the muzzle. With the suppressor on, it can be used to replicate a Delta M723 carbine with a 14.5-inch barrel. The 723 was the carbine most commonly carried by Delta operators in the late 80s, early 90s, before the introduction of the M4A1 carbine. It also has a mock Anvil aimpoint extension. I was looking for a retro aimpoint 2000, 3000 or 5000, however these are now several £100 or more, and I'm a bit uncomfortable taking a no longer made historical artefact into an airsoft game where it may get damaged. This adapter simply fits onto the back of a repro Comp M2 and makes it look like a retro aimpoint. It's just quite simply shares the clamp at the back of the aimpoint. I hope you enjoyed this look at my retro AR carbine collection. I really like them, and I'm massively looking forward to running them again in games when the airsoft scene reopens safely again. Please like, subscribe, ding that bell to receive notifications when we upload a new video or go live. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.